Kuminga is an athletic marvel. I wouldn't attribute much basketball IQ to him yet.
Whoa. Well, this is where I'm going to push back. We will agree to disagree on that.
He needs a 15-game regular season ramp up before he's ready for postseason basketball. Not only to get his sea legs back underneath him, Cy, but to blend into a team that is demonstratively different than the one that he stopped playing for. Defensively is where Kuminga needs to get a lot better for him to really give the Warriors what they need. But he is long. He should be able to, the team's best perimeter player. That's what you're hoping he can do. There is a lot of switching availability with him on the court, but he's with that second unit. And I think he just makes that second unit operate a little bit more like the first unit. And yes, he plays to the level of he's so good, you got to get him running with the starters. Then we're going to have to move around some pieces. But I think Kuminga comes off the bench. I mean, I'd be stunned to be anything but that.
Well, and reports have confirmed that. We had a Danny Emmerman on the program on Golden Days last week, confirming what you're suspecting there in regards to Kuminga's role coming back. Steve Kerr has said Kuminga will come off the bench to start, and it reinforces what you just said, which is that the second unit, which has been a massive problem for the Warriors this season until Jimmy Butler got here. But even with Jimmy Butler, you're not seeing the same dominance with the second unit that you're seeing with the Elite Five on the Warriors when Jimmy Butler has been on the roster. And that's a huge part of what Kuminga fixes. By the way, real quick, when you say Kuminga's not there defensively, is that based on your eye test, or is there a measurable?
No, it's you're total eye test. It's a guy who's his eyes are out of bounds and his back is to the driving guy with the ball. We've seen some real Kuminga wasn't paying attention to what he needs to pay attention to lowlights before he exited. And gets taken care of. I mean, here's the thing: while Kuminga's been rehabbing, there's no one in the league who should have been grinding more film than him, right? Of course. And I hope that that's what happened. And I hope that Stackhouse is just pointing out fundamental where your eyes need to be on every play. There's times to be worried about off-ball movement, and there's times to be worried about the ball, especially on the final play of a game. You got to worry more about the ball than the off-ball. Again, Kuminga is an athletic marvel. I wouldn't attribute much basketball IQ to him yet.
Whoa. Well, this is where I'm going to push back. We will agree to disagree on that. Every player has lowlights. This is an argument I have with folks because you see certain schmucks out there who make a living with blogs and whatnot, where you're highlighting like individual plays, lowlights. I like that term. I'm going to start using that more often as examples of a player's general play. And I push back on that because in the NBA, on average, each team has 100 possessions. You're going to find lowlights for every single individual. And I push back on any arguments that rely on individual possessions to make a point. Jonathan Kuminga, you're right. There are lowlights out there, for example, and there's a few that stick out that show him, with his head not necessarily on the.
I mean, there's a reason why he's not in the Kerr circle of trust.
But then you hear what Stackhouse has to say, right? And Stackhouse a few weeks ago brought up the fact that this team kept holding on, and this was a very subtle shot at Kerr. I was actually surprised that he said this, but where the team was holding on for 2.5 years, hoping that Andrew Wiggins would show the form they saw in 2022 instead of the form we saw for 10 plus years. And I guess don't have full faith if the criticism of Kuminga is his defense, and we're relying on that based off what Steve Kerr is seeing. I don't have as much faith in Kerr's judgment on that as others. Kuminga, to me, from my eye test, is a fantastic defensive player. I'm going to look up his.
He's good. I mean, I think he's good one-on-one, but the concept of team defense, weak side help, when to rotate, these are the things that it feels like. How about this? Quentin Post, a couple of games ago, was a little bit of a mess defensively.
Yeah.
They took him back to practice. They put him in the lab. They showed him what he needed to do, and he seemed to have cleaned it up quickly. If Jonathan Kuminga can join Quentin Post on I corrected the mistake from last night, and hopefully it'll remain corrected going forward, Jonathan Kuminga is going to go to all-star games. I think he's got that level of talent. But
you can find lowlights.
Learner.
I guarantee you can find lowlights from the last week too, though, of Quinton Post, where he's had possessions where he might not look like his basketball IQ is high. But I guess I'm pushing back on the idea that Kuminga has a low IQ basketball-wise. I don't see that. He's a very hardworking individual who doesn't make these mistakes that, I mean, look, he's making mistakes. I just don't see them at a higher rate, let's say, than any other player in his position with his experience and where he's trying to get to for his career. I think when he comes back, and I'm confident in saying this, that the Warriors defense is going to take another leap because he routinely is assigned when he's playing the opposing team's best player defensively. When it comes down to these important moments in a game, whether it's clutch moments, a tight a game within 5 points, Kuminga's oftentimes tasked with defending the other team's best player, and he handles that role very well. I'm going to pull up in just a moment here his defensive matchup statistics, because when we talk about NBA defense, Damon, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this or if you have anything to add, but measuring defense in the NBA in terms of data, in terms of measurables, is not easy.
It's hard.
Stat, right? Like, because people look at steals, but Stephen Curry's a leader in steals. And look, I'm not saying he's a bad defensive player, but he's not an elite defensive player for good reason. You want to save him for the offense. My point is steals they partly represent the stat, blocks partly represent the stat, but you don't have like a really good measurable for what a player is doing defensively, except for one. And correct me if there's anything that you want to push back on this on, please do. But there's one stat that I rely on defensively, and those are matchup figures. And you really have to dig deep into the NBA stats pages to find this stuff, but it does exist. And those numbers are what I rely on in terms of measuring a player and how good they're doing defensively. And Kuminga, I think, is doing fine, man. Like, on the season when he's playing defense, opposing players, more specifically guards, are shooting just 31.3% against them offensively from the three-point line, meaning players he defends guard-wise are shooting 31.3%.
I mean, he's long. He's fast enough to get up on a guy without worrying that he's going to blow right past him. He's got the foot speed. Again, his athleticism is making up for, I think, his lack of where it needs to be. And again, he's been gone for over 2 months now. So I'm in no way, Cyrus, trying to make an argument that this is like subtraction by addition. I am thrilled that Kuminga's coming back, and I'm really glad that he's coming back for a stretch of games that will allow him to get into what the Warriors are now doing that is so much different than what he's doing. Another guy getting to a free throw line, though? I mean, just right there alone. Give up 3 terrible layups a game if you're at the free throw line 10 times a night, putting the other team into the bonus, helping guys get the little rest that comes with every free throw. There's more value to free throws than just the free available points.
Agreed. So, Agreed. No, that's a great point, man. And that's a huge bonus for Jimmy Butler as well. No, that is a very astute point you made, because I hammer that argument to the audience in terms of what free throws bring defensively. Every time you have free throw attempts, you're setting up your defense for a half-court possession. When you see the Warriors struggling with transition D, that's because of a lack of free throws. That's a missed shot that's allowing the opposition to push the ball. When you have free throws, you're stalling everything. You're giving your team rest. Besides the free points, man, you're helping your D tremendously. I saw in the chat someone bring up that A Truth Hurts wrote that I'm talking about on-ball defense with Kuminga, whereas you're making the point, Damon, of team defense. I don't think Kuminga's look, you can point out lowlights like we talked about, but from a team defense perspective, and I know Steve Kerr likes to diminish Kuminga sometimes publicly. I'm not a fan of that, but I know he's done that before. I don't see it. I think Kuminga is a fantastic defender, regardless of the argument, whether it's team, on ball. I'm excited, brother. Whatever flaws people may think he has, and I get it. He's young. He hasn't earned Kerr's trust and faith the way some other players like Brandon Podziemski have. And we could have another discussion on that. All I'm trying to say is this kid can play. For whatever lapses you may see, there are 10 plays that make up for it. I'm super excited, dude. I'm pumped for this.
Thanks for watching. Tune into the Damon Bruce Show live on YouTube every weekday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific.